We see we are in a pandemic, and mental health is the pandemic. Hi, my name is Shawana Vaughn. I am the director of Silent Cry. Silent Cry is out of my own silent tears. I was born in prison. I was vended to the foster care system and leased back to prison. I have drafted a bill called Post-Traumatic Prison Disorder, Shawana W76337. But as a person who suffers the remnants of mass incarceration, I am very clear that the trauma starts before and lingers on until forever, until there is help. So I'm calling on the legislators, I'm calling on the activists, I'm calling on the media, I'm calling on the grassroots organizations and the people to grab hold with everything and champion post-traumatic prison disorder, Shawana W76337. Vendor therapy is one of the most vital things that I'm asking for in this legislation. I'm asking that 14 days into incarceration, that people be serviced and sought out by a trauma-informed therapist, and that people get correct evaluations. I'm calling on the state of New York to provide Medicaid before people leave incarceration so that they come home with the insurance to be seen by doctors.
It's so important to have a bill like this passed as it relates to mental health. Because as a scientist, I can see that the research correlates with what this bill is asking for. This bill is asking for us to finally take a look at what's happening within our prison system as it relates to mental health. When we look at the correlation between childhood trauma and incarceration, we look at the ACEs, the adverse childhood experiences. When we understand that 40 to 60% of our men and women experience post-traumatic stress before they even are incarcerated, we need to stop treating behavior and start looking at the root to what the issues are for those individuals that's incarcerated.
My ask is that in 2021, that we raise $200,000 so that we are able to facilitate our own legislation and provide the services needed. And as you can see, I already have one of the best doctors in this country on my staff and board ready and able to help. I'm asking for a national media campaign. I'm asking for media in my own state. I'm asking for volunteers, which are mandatory for a grassroots message and a national swell of voices to say, we no longer suffer the remnants of mass incarceration, and mental health matters for all.
Hi, my name is Owen Flomberg, and I'm the Executive Director for the Student Basic Needs Coalition.
And my name is Kaylee Shepard, and I currently serve as the Executive Vice President for SBNC. 40% of students that start college don't finish, and the rate is even higher for marginalized communities of color. Why? Most students drop out because they are experiencing financial stress. 1/3 of students experience food insecurity. When students drop out because they can't afford to eat, they still have to pay back their loans, and they don't get a higher paying job that they would have had access to if they had completed their degree, which makes it even harder to pay back those loans. The pandemic has made this problem even worse. One way to combat this problem is by expanding SNAP benefits for students. SNAP, formerly known as food stamps, is a federally funded program that provides food purchasing support for low-income and no-income people. Under current federal and state requirements, many college students are not eligible to receive SNAP. The two biggest areas of reform needed are a change to the 20-hour student work requirement and a requirement for institutions to alert students who qualify of their eligibility.
We have seen tremendous growth in our movement since our founding. Our team now includes myself, Kaylee, Katie, who is our VP of Development, and Paige, who is our VP of Outreach. Additionally, we have 3 national interns, a presence in 10 states across 13 campuses, and over 100 students involved. What we need to spread our movement. There are a few things that will help us grow our movement to even more campuses and more states. First and foremost, funding will help assist us in that growth. We can organize a state for $1,000 and help fund multiple states for $10,000. Additionally, volunteers are always needed for assisting in the various capacities of our organization, and bill sponsorship at the state and federal level to help increase student access to SNAP. You can find our contact information below, You can follow us on social media at SBNC_USA, at studentbasicneeds.com, and email us at contact@studentbasicneeds.com.
Hi, everyone. We're Climate Science Communication for Youth, and we seek to implement environmental justice education legislation. So we will be beginning this presentation with some storytelling because it's a very large aspect of the climate movement. So, for example, the AAPI community tends to be very overlooked in regards to the ways that we're affected by environmental racism. And so we also lack the political representation that we need, and especially in my community that I live in. So inspired by this and the work that other BIPOC organizers that I work with, I researched, drafted, and proposed a climate justice education bill in New York State to ensure that my community's story is told as well.
My relationship with CCY and climate organizing as a whole comes from when I was entering high school and I had to be evacuated from the British Virgin Islands due to Hurricane Irma, which was a Category 5 hurricane and the largest recorded natural disaster in the area at the time. This experience showed me that climate change is already affecting the climate, and those who are most affected by it are BIPOC, such as myself. Once I moved to New York, I recognized more environmental racism in my community, and as a result, I am very passionate about the combating of political interest and enfranchisement that many BIPOC face, especially when it comes to creating policy to eradicate environmental racism.
So unlike other bills, S1081, which was the bill number in New York State Senate, it hosts a environmental justice emphasis. It creates a committee that would affect K through 12 students, and they would basically be learning about climate change in not just their science classes, but in a plethora of different subjects such as English and history, but it's not just limited to those.
So the problem that we're aiming to address with bills like S1081 and our Model Lab curriculum program are the fact that BIPOC are underrepresented in climate organizing. BIPOC are the most affected by environmental racism and climate change, and as a result, they need to be at the forefront of climate-related discussions, especially those concerning climate policy. But this lack of representation means that they are unable to shape policy in order to address environmental racism.
So our Model Curricula Lab program is another mechanism that we believe can empower BIPOC youth to combat the climate crisis. So we curate workshops and provide support to our participants.
So the potential outcome of our program and bills like S1081 are the increased climate literacy among young people so that they can be proactive against the climate crisis, as well as socioeconomic implications of climate change being addressed within our systems through education, and conversations about environmental justice being encouraged, which would combat pluralistic ignorance regarding climate change.
So this is just some of our team, and both of us are currently high school students.
So our asks are $28,000 for internal operations, stipends for members, and resources that they may need to pass their bills. We would also request bill sponsorship in large states such as California and New York, and volunteer support. Skills would include mentorship, coalition building, lobbying, and writing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. We hope to hear from you soon.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kara Pachowski, and I'm a clinical pharmacist with additional training in tobacco treatment. Today, I'd like to talk to you about West Virginia Tobacco-Free Me, a campaign to promote tobacco preventative services and access to healthcare in the state of West Virginia and beyond. There's no hope. A statement from someone who feels like they don't have any options. There's no hope. A statement a patient made to me in one of my tobacco treatment classes when faced with the huge challenge of trying to quit smoking. Like so many others, he felt this way because he didn't have the appropriate tools to make one of the single most important changes for his health. I never want to hear someone say, "There's no hope," again. Tobacco use is the #1 preventable cause of premature death and disease in the world. West Virginia leads the nation in adolescent and adult smoking rates, smokeless tobacco and vape use, and women who smoke while pregnant. And people are dying. 10 West Virginians die each day because they use tobacco. Greater than 70% of people who use tobacco wish they could quit, but commonly feel hopeless and unsupported. West Virginia dedicates very little to tobacco treatment and prevention, less than 2% of the annual funding recommended by the CDC. Poor funding means poor access to medications and healthcare services, services that save lives. Change is needed urgently because health is a right. Tobacco Free Me is working to help West Virginia get health and hope back. And this is how we've started to do that. To increase access, we passed a law allowing pharmacists to prescribe tobacco treatment therapy. We're one of only 6 states where pharmacists have this ability, but we want to keep building on this. Our bill is working to raise state tobacco and vape tax to match the national rate. This step in itself would prove to decrease tobacco use. We want more of these tax dollars and other funding dedicated to tobacco recovery programs. Finally, our bill would increase access to these programs, as well as require all insurance providers to cover tobacco treatment medications and counseling. Tobacco treatment is one of the most cost-effective preventative services, which is with as much as $4 return on every dollar invested. And this is our team. I founded Tobacco Free Me and worked closely with Judy Siebert, fellow tobacco treatment specialist. After our day jobs as a pharmacist and a dietitian, we volunteered to run a free program to help people quit tobacco. We're asking for networking opportunities with people who work or have an interest in public health policy to grow our team. We could especially use assistance with cost-benefit analysis of applying state funds and tax dollars to these tobacco-related public health initiatives. Finally, we ask if you could help us raise awareness to this urgent public health issue in West Virginia and other states. We can work together to increase access to healthcare, instill back that hope, and help people become tobacco-free.